The truth is, Marvel Snap is not a card game. It's poker, but with cubes instead of cash. Every match you play is a bet. You're not betting with cards, you're betting odds. So if you're a player that chases win rate, that is the absolute wrong scoreboard to go by. Because here's the twist. You can lose more games than you win and still climb, as long as you understand cube math. Here's an example. We've got player A. Okay, player A wins 6 out of 10 games and goes backwards in their climb. Then you've got player B, who wins 4 out of 10 games and hits infinite. Same deck, but different math. I've been talking about this video for a while. Today, I'm gonna show you how to read cubes like poker chips, how to use odds and risk and weight to make smarter plays every turn. And after diving into the math even further, I've updated my past numbers to give a more accurate prediction of how you should be able to bet and risk your cubes. Part 1 is a simple one. Why does cube math beat win rate? Simple answer here. Let's just throw the examples out there, right? Let's say you win 60% of your games. That's great. I mean, that's a great win rate, especially in Marvel Snap, right? So you win for 1 cube 6 times, but then you lose 8 cubes 4 times. You're down a total of 26 cubes with a 60% win rate. You're literally going backwards. Now take that same deck and have it be someone that only won 4 games, but they retreated early. They knew they were losing, so they retreated for 1 cube 6 times. And in those wins, they won 4 cubes, just 4. No 8 cubers, just 4 cubes those times. Much different result, no? That right there is expected value. It's just math for, on average, how many cubes do I win per game? A positive expected value will climb. A negative expected value will fall. So you don't need to win every flip. You just need to win the ones that pay more. When poker pros are betting, they're not trying to win every flip. They're just trying to win the money on the right flips. And in Snap, we're trying to do that, but with cubes. That all comes down to understanding cube weight and pot odds. So the big picture on this is that not all cubes weigh the same. The pot will change depending on the math that needs to change with it. So for example, if you're playing a hand in poker and you're not gonna bet $100 to win $5, the pot odds don't justify that call. So in Marvel Snap, the fact that the pot doubles every single time via cube to 1, 2, 4, and 8, that changes what's actually smart. Think of it like this. Your single cube in the pot, that's your learning zone. You're gonna try some weird lines, maybe lose for only 1. It's a cheap lesson. That's not the worst thing. You retreat on the bad locations. You only paid 1 cube for information. Now in 2 cube world, you're kind of in the I feel confident area. This is your 60 to 70% confidence area to start moving forward in. You know that you have a sunspot growing and it's protected because it's got armor on top of it. Sure, stay in. You're feeling good about those percentages. Now, if you're going for 4 cubes, all of a sudden, now it's the you need to prove it, quote unquote, territory, right? You're only staying if the board truly is better for you and you still have outs to figure out along the way. And then there's the big final table, if you will, of 8 cube pots, which are like, this is a championship winning hand. I'm all in on this, push everything forward. You gotta be at least 80% positive that you have this in the bag to stay for 8. 8 cubes, 80%. Think of it like this. A 1 cube situation is $1, but an 8 cube situation is like $256. It's literally exponential. That's why one major 8 cube loss just feels like you lost 30 minutes of wins. So think of it in this mindset. If someone snaps, the pot just doubled. And your goal is never to win every pot. Your goal is to win the right pots. So don't be afraid to fold small, but then win big. That's the math. Now we're gonna get really nerdy. Now we're getting into turn 6 math and what I'm gonna call the 40-60 rule. Remember, turn 6 is not about hope. It should never be about hope. It's about odds. Because by turn 6, you're not guessing anymore. You're basically just reading probabilities. Each lane is telling you a little bit of the story of how far ahead or behind you are in that lane. Now you're determining how many cards are remaining in the hand, in the deck, what can actually flip the board or the lane all by itself. Think of it like this. You're in a scenario where you're down 10 in a lane and you've got Iron Man in your hand. Okay, great. That's a perfect swing card. It's awesome. Boom. I'm going to lock that lane. But understanding the priority is favoring them because they're going second. They destroyed your giant star brand in that lane. And now you've lost. Power of Shang-Chi. Here's what you should be breaking down going into that turn. Let's say they have done the math and figured out, okay, there's a 60% chance they don't have Shang-Chi, and there's a 40% chance that they do. Now the pot is going for 8 cubes. So we literally, for the super math nerds, can do this right here. The expected value, just straight up, 60% times 8 minus 40% times 8 equals 1.6 cubes. Mathematically, you're in a good situation to stay in that. But if you're in Conquest and you've already shown that Iron Man before, all of a sudden you've got bluff equity changing. And now the odds are dropping to about 50%. So your expected value, that drops down to flat 0. You're breaking even. There's no shock value anymore. So that's a situation where you then fold your hand, you retreat. I'll give you another example. Let's take a look at move, and you're running Human Torch and Multiple Man. They're set, they're on the board, they're scaled in the right places, and you need Heimdall to make everything move and swing the lanes in your favor. You've got 3 cards left in your deck. One of them is Heimdall. You have a 33% chance to draw it. So for an 8 cube game, you've got that 33% times 8 cubes minus the 67% times 8 cubes. It's a negative 2.7 expected cubes. That's a bad risk. It's not worth it. Fold. However, if it's only for 2 cubes and those numbers flip and go the other direction, now the expected value went from a negative 2.7 to a negative 0.67. That is a cheap risk. If you want to put the risk for it, it's favoring them still, but it's a much smaller risk, and that might be worth learning for, especially in a Conquest game where valuable information can also come from that turn 6 if it's one of the earlier rounds. So knowing when to chase the miracle draw and when to run from the miracle draw is very important to understanding that climbing graph that you want to go up. So here are your key takeaways in this super mathy section here, okay? 70% or better odds, snap and commit. You're feeling really good there. Going for 4 or better is a great standpoint. 40 to 60% odds, only really stay in it if the pot is small. So you're looking at 2 cubes. Sure, it's worth it. Positive, negative expected value, hovering around 0%, 50% in that range. You're doing okay. But if it's below 40%, just run. Just run, always. Feelings are great, but they're not data. Percentages are data. Now the fun one, bluffing and pressure value. Understanding how to create fake odds that will benefit you only if you know the image you have projected. Sometimes it's great to snap because you sound strong, not because you actually are strong. A great example of this is seeing Bar with no name and you're snapping on turn 1 because of it. Well, they might think now that you have the hood in your hand. That's an easy retreat, and it's a free cube for you. That's pressure. Even snapping earlier on in the match in general, and certain turns in particular, can create that pressure expected value. Turn 3 is a big one for that, because that alone, if you're at a 50-50 rate, all the locations have revealed, and you're at about a 50% chance to win, snapping in that moment makes them fold maybe, let's say, 25% of the time. You've now flipped your 50-50 now in your favor. Also, getting them to fold their hand to retreat often creates a hidden value, which is you won without needing to see further pieces of their hand. The precarious thing about that, though, is overdoing it. And then people start to call you on it, especially in Conquest matches. And it's basically the same thing in poker, too. You don't want to be known as the bluffer. Here's an example. You snap with Brood and Silver Surfer ready in your hand. They can't see it, but they retreat on turn 4, and you gain 2 free cubes because of it. On the other end of it, you snap on a weak hand, and you have no synergy, and they decide to stay. And now you've just lost 4 cubes because you bluffed in an imbalanced situation. It's like going in with 2-7 offsuit and saying, I've got this, bluff. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything. Here's what you take away from understanding how to bluff. And I quote, feel free. Editor, put this on the screen right here magically. Ready? Bluff only when your pressure raises your effective odds above the cube threshold. Otherwise, it's ego. This next one is difficult for many people. Retreating is winning. I mean, it's cube management. It's not weakness. We're back to that whole ego conversation again. Simple example, you play 10 games, 6 of them, turn 1, retreats. The other 4, you snapped early and you won 8 cubes in every single one of them. All of a sudden, you're up 26 cubes in 10 games. That's just like wild, but you folded most of the time versus staying in all 10. And maybe out of those 6 that you decided to fold in for version 1, you happen to win 1 of them, but the others instead you lost 4. That right there is the difference between being infinite and being stuck. You should really look at retreating as dodging a car crash. You didn't win the race, sure, but you kept the car and the driver alive. Retreating will save you cubes more often than not, but your ego will cost you cubes more often than not too. So let's recap it a bit here. Here are the 4 golden rules one last time, summarized to reinforce math discipline in Marvel Snap. Number 1, snap early when you're 70% ahead by turn 4. If you're that far ahead and you've got a strong hand, yeah, go ahead, push into the pot while it's still cheap. Rule number 2, if odds are under 40%, just retreat, dip, get out of there. Cut your losses before they start to compound unnecessarily. Number 3, adjust for the cube weight. We talked about that the bigger the pot means you have to do stricter math and have very tight constraints on how you decide to bet or stay in certain situations, because doubling your cubes is also doubling your discipline in those moments. And lastly, track your expected value, not your win rate. If your average cubes per game are positive, I mean, you're winning. That's what matters. No matter what the stats say in win rate, climbing comes from cubes. So yeah, Marvel Snap is basically poker. It's not luck. It's just discipline in those maths. You're not gambling anymore necessarily. You're just investing with the proper understandings of how to use your chips, or in this case, cubes. Every retreat is a fold. Every snap is a push all in. Learn the math, respect the weights, and play the percentages. Because when you do, you'll just climb faster than anybody else who's trying to win more games than you. So I hope this helped. I hoped looking at the game through a different lens might give you different perspective on how to use the most important mechanic in Marvel Snap, the snap. So leave a comment down below. If this helped, what was your favorite part? Did you like this style of video, these mathier, in-depth videos, but I tried to keep it digestible? Your honest feedback would be greatly appreciated if you made it this far in the video. Just like liking and subscribing and maybe even sharing. That would be helpful too. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.